Hello again and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse and I am back for another channel update and random topic video. And boy, I was just trying to record this yesterday, and even since then there's been a couple things that have happened. So kick back and yeah, just kick back, relax, and this is going to be maybe a little longer one because there's quite a few things that I want to touch on today. So as I start these usually, just want to thank everybody for supporting the channel, supporting my work, and thanks for the likes and comments and all that kind of stuff. If you are new to the channel, I unlock videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And you also will find all my videos in playlists. So if there's something in particular you're looking for, definitely check the playlist section out, and you'll be able to find hopefully what you're looking for there. I cover a variety of different things from mainstream games that I play as a low vision gamer to totally blind accessible games for PC, console, and mobile, VR accessibility, VR apps and games, just other kind of nerdy stuff. There's some cool like nerdy collectibles I've gotten over the years. App accessibility, topics on blindness, game accessibility, just all kinds of different things. So definitely check that section out. And I do want to bring your attention to, if you have not checked it out yet, within the last few weeks, I've started a new playlist, and it's called Growing Up Illegally Cited. And this is really a couple of different things. First off, I get a lot of questions pretty often, a lot of similar questions pretty often. How did you get into YouTube? How did you get into technology accessibility, game accessibility, just any number of different things. And so in this series, I try to answer those types of questions more in depth. So if somebody sends me an email or a tweet or a comment in YouTube, sometimes it's just much easier to have a central place for these types of questions, and then people can just refer back to them at any time. And then I'll have somewhere where to refer people when I get asked that again. And the other reason is just, like I said, based on the questions that I get and that I would anticipate getting. In this series, I just basically take a topic, one topic per video, and I just kind of dive deeply into it. It could be a question that somebody has asked, could be just something related to blindness, technology, assistive technology, education, employment, YouTube, accessibility, just any number of different things. And so we're about 3-4 weeks in, and it seems to be going well so far. I've gotten some nice comments, so thank you for those. If you haven't checked it out already, check it out, and I hope you enjoy it. Hope you find it helpful. And these are going to be the Monday videos going forward for a little while, because I'm not really streaming at this time on Twitch. So these are going to replace the stream archives on Mondays. So yeah, check out the Growing Up Illegally Cited playlist. I'm also hoping to, in the next short while, YouTube has introduced the ability to turn a playlist into a podcast feed. So once I figure that out, I think that is a perfect playlist, since it's really just me talking about a topic in each episode. That would be a good one that could potentially work in a podcast form. So I will let you know when that happens as well, and I will let you guys know on Twitter, so follow me there. Yes, I'm still active on Twitter, despite a lot of people leaving there. Again, when I was talking about Twitter before, it was just one of those things of, I like the way that Twitter works. Yes, it's run by one company, and yes, I really don't agree with a lot of what the dingnut at the head of that place is doing. But I like the way that Twitter works. Like Mastodon or even Discord, you have these separate silos or separate servers that you have to deal with. And so it's like, well, maybe I want to join an accessibility thing. Maybe I want to read about music. Maybe I want to read about, I don't know, movies or books or any number of different topics. And instead of having to join all these separate different silos and manage them separately, like, no, I just want to follow the people that I want to follow and then have it come up in a feed. And that's why I still like Twitter. The mobile app works great, and I've heard, I don't use it on desktop all that much, but I've heard that also works pretty well. So blind people can still use it on PC or mobile. I've been using the native Twitter app on iOS for years and really don't have much of a problem with it. So hopefully that helps people out. But yeah, I mean, as far as the channel goes, man, it is busy and it is not going to be slowing down at all. Fairly recently, I did cover the PC version of The Last of Us Part 1, which is very accessible, just as accessible as the PS5 version. And I'm hoping there was just a patch out literally, I think, within the last couple of days. Naughty Dog has been really updating the game, so hopefully some of the greedy CPU, GPU usage has gone down a little bit, and it should run better on the specs that they originally, when they put out the minimum and recommended system requirements. Hopefully that runs a little better. Like I said, I just threw a high-end video card and 64 gigs of RAM at it, and aside from that first weird glitch that I had when I originally did the Spotlight video, it's ran great, and I've beaten the game. I've beaten it on PC. It was fun. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. So check that out. I've got some low vision videos, some retro first person shooter videos. Did a video for Dead Island 2 earlier this week. And that's a game that I really wish it had a little more accessibility in it, especially for like the navigation and the compass and the map and things. But, if you can see well enough to play it, it's a lot of fun smashing and slashing zombies. It's pretty fun, and I need to get back to it. But holy crap, you guys, the next 2 months are going to be absolutely ridiculous, both with events and events. I mean, so events, we just had the Game Accessibility Conference, the European edition, which I will talk about at the end of the video. We have Google I/O coming up in May. We have WWDC coming up in June. We have all the non-E3 events also in June. We already heard Microsoft is going to have something, I think on the 11th. I'm sure that Sony, maybe Nintendo, probably some of the big third-party stuff. I'm sure there'll be some sort of Ubisoft or Devolver Digital or any number of different things that they usually have around the E3 time. So there may not be an official E3, but you got the Jeff Keighley thing. IGN usually does something. There's a PC gaming show usually. So who knows what's all going to be happening with that. You have all of those events. And then you have the XR Access Symposium in mid-June as well. Good crikey. And then on top of that, I have stuff through work, because that's kind of our busy time for working with transition students. So June is going to be absolutely nuts. Through work, through just gaming, just through everything. If I had enough vacation, I swear to God, I would love to just take off the entire or most of the month of June for vacation, because with all the game events and tech events and games coming out, it's just, like I said, it's madness. Then we got all the games in the next couple of months. So we've had Dead Island 2. I'm working with, and like I said, I haven't even gotten back to some of the games that I've covered on the channel to finish them. I haven't finished Dead Space. I haven't finished Hi-Fi Rush. I haven't even bought or started to try the Resident Evil remake if I want to do that, the Resident Evil 4. Like I said, Dead Island, I want to play more of that because I'm enjoying it. We have this week Star Wars Jedi Survivor. We have Zelda coming out next week. We have, let's see what else. The vampire game. I can't remember what it was called. The Microsoft first-person shooter vampire game that why can't I remember the name of it? Let me get a drink of water really quick and mull it over for a second. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but that's literally coming out next week too, on the 2nd, I think. Then we have the Warhammer 40,000 bolt gun, which is this retro shooter that looks really fun. We have that. We have that Lego 2K Drive arcade racing game that just looks like a lot of fun. I genuinely want to check that out. I mean, we had a really fun Hot Wheels game a couple of years ago, and now we're getting this Lego game that like you can make your own cars, and like there's just a lot of really bright like arrows and things. Like I when I watch some gameplay footage, it looks like it's going to be pretty low vision friendly. That looks like a lot of fun. What else is in May? Like I said, I know, like I said, Zelda's a big one. June is going to be ridiculous. We have Street Fighter 6, which a lot of people are excited about. I'm potentially excited. I know they're having a lot of accessibility features. Like they showed a short little video a little while ago about a high contrast mode, if you need that, so that's cool. Then they have some audio accessibility features for blind players, so you know, like, oh, this is what your meters are, your health meter, your special meter, where you are on the stage, or what kind of attack is coming at you. So they have a bunch of audio cues. That's really cool. My one potential disappointment, though, like I was really close after watching last week's spotlight video that Capcom did, or showcase video. I was really close to just, man, I gotta pre-order this. This looks sweet. Um, but the problem is, I tried the PS5 demo. I'm gonna download the PC demo and just see how it runs. Maybe I'll do a demo time video on it. We'll see if I get time. Um, but like, I love the fact that like the fighting itself, yes, we're having all these accessibility features. That's awesome. But I don't know that if there's going to be any menu narration or UI narration, and this is a real bummer to me because A, from what I've played in the demo, there's a fair bit of small text, and B, you know, it's like if you're a blind player, or even a low vision player, you want to be able to get around the interface, access all the modes, all the settings, all the move lists, that kind of a thing. And in the recent showcase video, they were really talking a lot about, you know, oh, we're having all these different customization things and creating characters, and but then you're also like all these training and tutorial modes of like, oh, this is how, you know, these are the moves for your character. This is kind of when to use them. So there's like training modes and tutorials. And I'm gonna be disappointed if they're all just text and they're either not like audio narrated by the game itself, like by a character, or um, if there's not like text to speech. Because again, that's the thing. If you want to get more people in, you know, okay, they're adding all these tutorials and stuff to get your average Joe player into the game that's non-disabled. That's great. But I really want to see text to speech, because if I wanted to say get into some Street Fighter and I wanted to take advantage of their tutorials, can I do that? Because maybe I won't be able to see them that well, especially when I'm trying to watch the screen and watch my fight and also try to read text, which may or may not be large to begin with. So I have some concerns. I know I'm really pretty sure it's going to be a great game. But like I said, that's one thing that I'm really hoping for. But as much as they've talked about stuff so far, I don't know that it's going to happen. And I'm going to admit that that's going to be kind of a bummer for me if there's not any text to speech or menu narration, UI narration. Then we got Diablo 4 in June. Diablo 4. I watched the video if you haven't watched that one already. I played some during the open beta. There is text to speech. There is menu narration for the menus and for your inventory, for your quests, for all kinds of stuff. I don't know if there's actually going to be any like navigation assists for totally blind players in the main game, but like from what I've read so far, Blizzard has been very open, not just for accessibility, but like within the last month or so, they've been really open about like their development path, like what they're working on, listening to the feedback that they received from both of the betas. There's going to be another, basically a stress test weekend in mid-May, so that they're basically, they want people to just bash the servers as hard as they can, so they know that they're going to have enough servers when the game launches, so that people don't have like obscenely long queues and problems, and so it's kind of a stress test. I'm not sure if I'm going to participate in that or not, because if you play that, your progress isn't going to carry over into the main game. To me, I've played enough of it where I think I'm going to play the main game and I'll be fine with it. But yeah, I mean, like, I played the original Diablo. I think I tried Diablo 2. It just, with all the inventory and constant loot and, all that kind of stuff, it was just a lot visually. And the text was small, but like now that all this stuff is more accessible, it's great. And I had a lot of fun with the demo. I played the hell out of that for a couple days. And so, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to Diablo 4 quite a bit. June. Trepang 2, you guys. Trepang 2 is coming out right around the same time as Diablo. Oh, dear Lord. I've been looking forward to that one. It's kind of like a spiritual successor to Fear. I played the heck out of the demos that were out, even like when Riley was up here. After that, they had an updated demo. Really liked what they did there. So yeah, Trepang 2, very much looking forward to that. There's just, like I said, I can't even remember them all. Like, there's so many things coming out, and then there'll be just like little surprises. There'll be like an indie release that'll just slip out there somewhere, like, ooh, that looks interesting, let me try that out. And again, that's not even counting the backlog. So I mean, there's literally at least a half a dozen, if not more, games that I want to play within like the next 2 months alone. And there's another game, I don't have a release date. We don't have a release date for it yet, but we just got some really spiffy news about it. And I will talk about that a little later in this video, so stay tuned. But if you're interested in an accessible game, you're gonna want to hear about this one. Before I do that, though, I want to get rid of some of the potential bad news, controversial news. Get that stuff out of the way first. I'm just trying to think if there's any other events or games that are going to be coming out in the next couple of months. Like I said, it is just jam-packed. And there's even more games that I'm just not really all that excited about. That's not my genre. So there's plenty to look forward to. Accessible games, I don't know of any. Like, I know there's some accessible games that I already downloaded for iOS that I just haven't gotten around to playing or recording for yet. So expect me to hopefully get around to that sometime soon. And again, I want to record more of these growing up illegally cited videos to address some questions and other topics that people have had. So yeah, keeping very busy. Moving on, I do want to briefly talk about the recent updates with the whole Microsoft and Activision Blizzard thing. I mean, I wish that it would have gone through. Apparently, as of yesterday morning, they had announced that the EU has denied the merger, and so Microsoft has to appeal. Well, now I read something this morning about they're giving them sort of an out, theoretically, where if they agree not to up the price of Game Pass, maybe they'll give them an exception and let it go through. So who the hell knows? I'm kind of tired of hearing about it, and I really have mixed thoughts on this because, like, Activision overall, there's a lot of shitty stuff happening with them. I mean, you hear about all the stories, all of the bad behavior, the sexual harassment, the, I mean, Bobby Kotick, I don't even have to say any more, other than his name. But all the stuff that's happening there, there's been some stuff even with Blizzard. And, one of the arguments was that, well, if Microsoft takes them over, they can probably try to out Bobby Kotick and then, try to restructure things or kind of get a different type of atmosphere at Activision. So that could potentially be a good thing. Sony's been making a whole bunch of noise, kicking and screaming over the last few months. Some of it is kind of ironic because some of the crap that they were saying is like, they're playing unfair, and then they do go ahead and do the same thing. So it's like, you know what, you guys are just a whole, all of you guys are just big corporations, and you're just being stupid. I don't know, like, do I think it should go through? I think it could be okay. I think it would benefit Activision. Might straighten things out more with them because right now they're so risk averse right now that they're just like, if it's not Call of Duty, we don't care. It's like you get a Call of Duty. I mean, look at all these studios that are like, oh, remember when Raven used to actually make cool games? Remember all the other games that maybe they used to make? But Activision always takes like a franchise and they just ram it into the ground until you can't anymore. Look what they did with like Guitar Hero and like Tony Hawk, and then they ruined that series. Tony Hawk 5 was so bad. And granted, I haven't followed Call of Duty in a long time just because I kind of stopped caring. But the thing is, like I said, with all their culture and all their other problems that they're having, Microsoft taking over might not be a bad thing. But the other thing for me with Microsoft, I think something needs to really change there too, because they're doing a lot of things well. They're doing a lot of things right. But within the last, let's say, 5 years, how many companies, and I'm honestly asking, I have no freaking clue. How many companies have they purchased? Small game devs, medium game devs, couple of big game developers. Now they're going after Actiblizzard. So they've bought a lot of studios. Granted, and I know we've had the whole pandemic thing for a couple of years. But still, when are we going to see some games? Like, Microsoft has had to have purchased over at least half a dozen to a dozen of these developers and companies. But we haven't hardly seen any actual games from them. We haven't hardly seen any output for them. I keep hearing things about Microsoft sales, both Series X and S are really down. Like I said, their hardware is fine. Game Pass is awesome. I mean, their streaming service, like the way that works, I've actually been pretty impressed with how smoothly that's worked. Their cloud gaming, I've tried that once or twice. I've streamed from my Xbox to my PC. That's worked well. So, like, they have a lot going for them, but they just need games. How long have we heard about a Fable, a Perfect Dark? And then the games that have come out have all kind of had issues, like look at Halo. It's like Halo Infinite. They had a really strong launch. People were loving the campaign. Hell, I loved the campaign until my old HP Omen computer shit itself. I was playing that and I was liking it. But then people weren't really happy with the multiplayer and yada yada. So I think Microsoft really needs to stop buying things. Like, figure out what you're going to do with Activision, Blizzard, whatever. Make it go through, don't make it go through. At this point, I don't even know if I care anymore. But do something with the resources that you have. You know, let's get some actual games out there before you keep buying more. I mean, yeah, it's great that you're getting all this talent, you're getting all these studios or whatever, but it's kind of been slim pickings on the Microsoft side of things. Um, and I'm not the only one to say that. So, like I said, I think Microsoft's main problem is they just got to quit buying crap and start actually taking advantage of the studios that they've already acquired. That's my thing. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. We're probably going to be hearing about this crap for the next, who knows, year, two, who knows how long this nonsense is going to continue on. But yeah, you got all these big companies, waving their whatever around. So I don't know with that little thing that I read this morning. I don't know if that's going to happen. If they're going to, if Microsoft is going to agree not to raise, and then they'll let it go through. But then that's the EU. Is it going to go through the US? And it's just, ugh. Just wake me up when it's all done. Just let me know if it's going to happen or not. Like I said, at this point, I don't know that I care anymore. So that's Microsoft. I mean, it is a big deal because those are some big companies in gaming. I mean, Activision and Blizzard, they're huge. Microsoft, they're huge. Um, it will be interesting to see what happens. So that's that. One of the other topics I really wanted to talk about, I mean, this is more the controversial one. So, if you followed AppleViz or social media lately, I've seen it more on AppleViz, but Voice Dream Reader, one of my favorite apps of iOS. Like, I absolutely love this app. I have for years and years. I'm trying to even think when it came out. I think it was like 2012-ish or something like that. It was ages ago. And, you know, when I first got my iPad and that, I used the Bookshare app, which is no longer available. And now Bookshare has a new one out there, which is meh, not great, but it works. But Voice Dream Reader, when I found that out, it was like, wow, this is actually really good. And it's funny because every time, there's an update for it, I'm like, what else can he add? Like, this app is already great. I can't imagine it getting any better. And every time there is an update, it's like a major update. It's like, oh, this is really good. I remember one of the first things, like when he added iCloud support, and it was just like, oh, I get a new phone, or I want to sync stuff between my iPhone and iPad. That is awesome because I literally have hundreds of books and magazines and files and stuff in folders in my VoiceDream library. That was awesome. And then we had VoiceDream Scanner, which is just excellent. Use it to read paper documents. Use it to OCR PDF files. Use it as a separate app or use it right within VoiceDream Reader and save it right into whatever folder you're in so that you have access to that. I mean, it's great for students. When I do a tech assessment through my day job, whether they're blind or low vision, and if they have an iPhone, and even if they have an Android phone, their version is called Ledger Reader, and I show it to them because it's great. But there was some recent news earlier this week that a friend texted me. He's like, "Hey, check this out. Did you hear about this? And did you hear people whining?" VoiceDream, even the mobile app now is going to a subscription model. Now, if you are an existing user, if you already own VoiceDream Reader, you will be able to just keep using the app as normal. But if you're a new user, it's not like a one-time purchase right now anymore. They're going to have a 7-day free trial, and then you have a yearly subscription fee. And originally it was going to be $60 per year. And I even looked at that and went, that might be a little high. I mean, when you break it down, 12 times 5 is 60. It's $5 a month. I mean, that's not terrible if it's an app that you use a lot, and for as much as it does. And this isn't like a Microsoft. This is not a Google or an Amazon. It's like a couple of dudes, it's Winston, and I think he's got a couple other developers working for him now. But, it's a smaller team. And if we'll get into that in a second, but so it was going to be $60 a year, and there was a lot of feedback, there was a lot of complaining, a lot of pushback on it, especially like on the AppleVis forums. And then I saw a post from the developers on the thread there, and they're like, well, we're reconsidering, and we'll try to shoot for, was it $39.99? So basically $40 a year. So $40 a year. And they were going to implement that change in the next couple of days. So there's a few things that I think could have maybe been done a little bit differently, and things that they could do going forward to maybe appease people a little bit better. I think it would have been a good idea to give people a little bit of warning to say, hey, look, we're a small team. We got to support ourselves somehow. And in order to do that, we need to pivot to a subscription thing here, subscription model. And, we're going to give you guys about a month if you want to pick it up in the current way. Go ahead and buy it. But as of, let's say, June or something, then we're going to switch to the subscription model. And then, going forward, they would have whatever their price is. That would give time. Now, the other thing that I think they could do, and maybe they should, one of the options they could or should do is, you could have let's say it's going to be $40 a year. That is a yearly option. You could also have a monthly option because, I get it. I've been dirt poor before. I've talked about it, and I will be talking about it again. Maybe I can't pay $40 right up front now because I'm totally broke. So, maybe I can afford like $3 right now, and then I can, just pay it monthly. And then maybe they could have, pay, let's say, $80, and then you get another lifetime subscription. You pay a little bit more than you would pay for an annual fee. Like other apps have done that. I think like Envision, when it was a paid app, they had done that. There's been a couple other ones that have done something similar, but just giving people a little bit of options. Because I get it. Like I said, I've been dirt poor before. I've been broke. Offering a monthly and a yearly option, maybe a higher one-time, like, hey, here, buy it outright option. You could do that. But I get it. I get them needing to move to a subscription model, and I was wondering if that was going to happen because you had, when the voice stream reader from Mac came out not terribly long ago, that is also a subscription. And, like I said, the problem with mobile in general, and it's even going past mobile in my opinion, is that when the App Store started, you could buy apps. You had free apps, you had paid apps, you had light. There was a big thing of you can buy the light version, or you can download the light version for free. It may be a demo. It may be a version of the app or game that didn't have all the content or features. But then you could pay, like a couple bucks, $2, $5, $10, and then you unlock the whole game or the whole app. But then there was this race to the bottom, like, oh, we can't charge people $5. People won't pay $10. Everyone just shot down. Everything was 99 cents for a while. And then everything had to be free. And then everything had to be free to play or free with ads everywhere, free with microtransactions, free with timers, free with 8,000 different currencies. All of this stuff I absolutely hate the trend. Like I really, really want it to go back to something where you can outright, like, sure, give me a light version for free, give me like 7 days free, but then just let me buy it. But because that's happened, look at how many games we've lost. Look at how many apps we've lost because no one's willing to pay for anything anymore because everything has to be free or no one will look at it. I mean, like I said, look at AppleVis, look at any of like the message boards or mailing lists where, and I'm sure it's not just the blind community, but I notice it in the blind community. God forbid if something comes out that you actually have to pay for, even $1 or $2, people are just angry. Wow, I need a coupon code. Or I'm not paying for that because it's not free. Why are they taking advantage of blind people? Do you realize what, sighted people have to pay for stuff? I mean, I don't want this to turn into another rant again, but it bugs me. So, if somebody bought, let's say, Voice Dream 8-10 years ago, like I did, and there was a version, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, where he did a major rewrite, a major rebuild of the app, and he said, hey, because I'm doing so much work on this, because we're changing it so significantly, I'm going to need you guys to pay for this upgrade. And I was like, righto, okay, we'll just do. I'm there. I paid for it immediately right away, no hesitation, no complaints. And like I said, I'm not even a student, but I use the app almost every day. So, he's made our money off of us. And yeah, there's going to be new people that are coming up. Like I said, when I show it to transition students, that are 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, you get those, or you just get people who, for whatever reason, never knew about it. Yeah, there'll be some, but again, if it's a niche market, you've got blind people, you've got visually impaired people, you've got people with learning disabilities or dyslexia. There's not just, it's a good app for not just blindness, but it's just a nice reading app for visual or audio. Because it does so many things. It does book share, you can read PDFs, Word documents, internet pages, audio files, Word documents, God only knows what else. EPUB, just all kinds of stuff. So to me, it's very valuable. And even if he would have said, even for existing subscribers, like, we're going to have to move to a subscription. Can you pay a subscription? I would, because not only, like I said, not only are the features there that I value, but I think it's a well-designed app. It does what it's supposed to. I like its functionality. I like the way it works. And I know, having used the app for close to a decade now, probably, that the developer supports it and he supports it well. It's not an app that, as long as he's able to continue developing it, it's an app that they're going to support. And that's the thing that I'm kind of worried about, is now with all this pushback from people, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm not never going to use the app again," and blah blah blah. I really hope that this doesn't push away existing users. I mean, existing users can already still use it, so like they, I don't know, they don't even have to complain. They can still use it. But like I just hope that they'll be able to continue development in the future, because as much as I value, as much as I use this app every day, that is one I don't want to go away. I would be kind of lost without Voice Room Reader. And I know there are other similar apps. There's Easy Reader, there's this Speech Central app, there's, like I said, there's two or three other ones that are out there, and some are free, some you might have to pay a couple bucks for or whatever. But like I said, I've kind of entrenched myself into Voice Dream Reader. I love it. I use it, and like I said, I just really hope that this doesn't backfire on him too much, and that he is able to actually support himself or themselves. And I'm hoping that they will be able to continue development for years ahead, because I and many others use it a lot. Like I said, I recommend it all the time to people. I give people options. I'll show them like two, at least a few different options that are out there. But I say this is the one that I personally prefer. If they ask me, they say, which one do you like? I'm like, well, I like Voice Dream Reader because these reasons that I've largely just told you. So that's, and then there's a whole controversy, or there's a whole thing with like the developer of Speech Central. Now, admittedly, that is an app that I have not covered on the channel yet. I kind of forgot about it, actually. I downloaded it and played with it a little bit a while ago, and I just never got around to playing with it more or covering it. I may try to poke at it again, because it's been a long time since I've even looked at it. It's kind of a voice streamy app, but like I said, and I can't even say what it does or doesn't do right now, because it's been so long since I've looked at it. At one time, I don't think it supported Bookshare books. And in one of his recent updates, he explained why that was. But like I said, when I looked at it, it was largely like, oh, you can take websites and stuff and pull articles and, kind of like a, read later type of thing. I mean, usually if I go to a website, I just go to a website and read it, So I wouldn't really use the app that way, but I got to look and see what it does, and maybe I'll do a video of it in the fairly near future when I get a chance. But like I said, I think just some of the other apps, I just prefer the way that VoiceStream does it, and that's a personal preference, and I will support the app however I can, and I just hope everything works out for them, and I hope they find a price point that will work to support themselves and so that people can afford it. Maybe offer again a monthly plan, a yearly plan, lifetime plan maybe. I don't know, because it's a great app. And that's all I'm really going to say about that Voice Dream Reader. I've done a few different videos on it. You know how I feel about it. That's what it is. So now we get into the fun stuff. The last couple topics I want to talk about, and literally the one I just saw half an hour ago before recording this video. We've had The Last of Us and God of War and a few other things on Sony that have been accessible. We've had kind of accessibility on Microsoft. Forza, you kind of could. Minecraft Dungeons had some nice text-to-speech, but I wouldn't call it blind accessible. Well, they released a accessibility video on their YouTube channel today. There's a regular version and an audio described version that I retweeted earlier today. And the Forza Motorsport game that is coming out sometime later this year seems like it's going to be pretty much, I think, fully accessible to the blind. Or at least a good chunk of it is going to be. They did a whole feature on blind-specific accessibility for the upcoming Forza game, and it featured somebody I know. Shout out to Brandon Cole. I've been on his podcast before, Breakdown Walls, and he's been in my streams before. So, yeah, we know each other, and he's a cool dude. And yeah, he's been working with Turn 10, I guess, on making, because, you know, they had a partial blindness accessibility in Forza Horizon, was it 5 or 6? I don't even remember what they're up to now. I did it on the channel when it came out, or I streamed it. But it was limited by, you basically, if you turn the blindness accessibility on, you were pretty much just, you were following a line and you were just holding down the accelerator. You really didn't have much agency about like, oh, am I actually driving and dodging other cars and, you know, making my way around the track? And you really weren't. Well, that seems like it's going to change because you can, you know, you have the other audio assist features, but like you can turn some of the driving assists or even all of them, I think, off. And if you learn it well enough, you can drive the cars just using the in-game audio and the extra blindness audio cues. So you are actually going to be able to more freely drive your car. That seems really cool because Forza, between I'd say Forza and Gran Turismo, those are the main two series anymore. You know, we haven't had a Ridge Racer in how long? We don't have many arcade racers. We're not getting Burnout anymore. Need for Speed is kind of there, but like Forza and Gran Turismo are the main two that we got. And I much prefer Forza, A, before its accessibility, and B, I think it's just interfaces a little better. I got a code for Gran Turismo, or I got Gran Turismo 7 somewhere, somehow, last year. And I tried to play it, and their interface is just awful. There's no text-to-speech, and visually it's just like icons scattered everywhere, and it's just menus upon menus upon menus, and I'm just like, you know what, I looked at this, and like the racing was okay. They had some assists and everything, but it was just like, I hated their UI. To me, it was just bad. And especially if there wasn't going to be nice, large, and high contrast visual accessibility or menu narration, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to have the patience to put up with this. So I just said, screw this. And I just really haven't touched Gran Turismo 7 since. But yeah, I mean, it looks like later this year, blind players are actually going to be able to fully enjoy, or at least very much enjoy, a large part of a AAA racing game. So that I'm looking forward to seeing. And the nice thing is, Forza is on PC, it's on Xbox, so if you have a Series X, Series S, or if you want to use the Xbox Windows app, you can do that. And especially if you have Game Pass Ultimate, you will be able to just download it, because that's what they're doing with those. So there'll be a very low barrier to entry as long as you have the hardware to do it. As long as you got an Xbox or a PC. Hell, sign up for Game Pass for a month and see if you like it. You know, spend your $15 and try it out. Or just buy it or subscribe to Game Pass, whatever. So that was exciting. That was very cool to see. I'm looking forward to trying that out myself. So I wanted to cover that exciting announcement that we had today. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about the Game Accessibility Conference European Edition that was earlier this week, Monday and Tuesday. And boy, howdy. Yeah, those European time zones, man, they're rough. I wanted to attend live virtually because I wanted to be in the Discord and network with people and chat and everything during the sessions. So I was up bright and early at 4 a.m. on Monday and Tuesday, completely wrecking my sleep schedule, thank you, drive-through. but it was a lot of fun. There's also a lot of good sessions this year. And the nice thing is they are already up on the GAConf YouTube channel. You can watch the full days if you want to, or you can just watch the individual sessions of interest to you for both days. So there were a lot of good sessions this year. There was some, again, there was some stuff from the gamer side, the advocate side, the player side. There was some from the developer side. Of course, since it's a 2-day conference now, one of their panels, their panel one day was from kind of the developer side, and we got some nice information from them. And then the second panel was a panel of gamers, and that one specifically was on people experiencing like chronic fatigue and like chronic illnesses, that kind of a thing. And it was actually a really interesting. It was a really interesting session, actually. They had a session on deaf-blind accessibility, because again, that's something that maybe you don't consider about. Like, a lot of times when we look at game accessibility, we're looking at it from, our personal interests or like one particular category. Is this game accessible for blind people, for deaf people? Is it accessible to somebody with a motor impairment or a learning disability or, neurodiverse or whatever? But a lot of people have multiple disabilities, Some people have both hearing and vision loss. Some people may have, motor and sight or hearing impairment. And so it was really interesting kind of getting some perspective from deaf-blind users. That was an interesting session. They had a session, I think it was like the first session, the second day, from the developers of, oh man, why am I struggling to remember the names of the titles of games today? Stories of Blossom. I did a demo time video of it, and it's a game for younger kids, geared at younger players. But I love what they're doing. It is like a point and click adventure game. It's kind of got this hand-drawn art style. It's like a storybook art style. But they're really taking accessibility from the beginning, and they're just doing a really cool job. Like it is blind accessible. You have like audio description, menu narration. It's fully navigable by keyboard or like by one switch or just anything. It's just really well done. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the final version of that. I mean, yeah, okay, it's a story for younger kids or something like that, but you know what? I will support them because I think it's, hey, kids need something to play too. I think that's awesome. You get things like that. You get Brock the Investigator. I mean, yeah, that one's a little more mature, but no, it's great that stuff like this is out there. What else? I said there was just so many good things. There was one on Deathloop accessibility. I need to get back into that again because right around the time I was going to play that on the PC, when I eventually picked it up, that was when my old computer crapped itself. So I would like to try that again on my new rig because they've added some features and accessibility to it. I mean, like I said, there was just so many different things. There was stuff from the developer side, the user side, deafblind, motor impairment. I said, I can't even remember because it's been a couple days now. The last session that Tara Volker did was actually really good. Really good way to end. Oh, before I get to Tara's one, the other one I forgot to mention that I do need to mention. There's a session on, it's called Project Black Cat, Black K-A-T, and I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. I know Sightless Combat was one of the main presenters. I can't remember the lady's name. Sorry. But that was a really interesting session. And if you are interested in game accessibility, if you're watching this channel, you should go watch that video, because I've seen so many times where people, again, and I get the frustration, I do, because I experience it myself for games that I can't play. But people just, they rip into a developer. They don't give constructive feedback. They just, yell at them, or they just, oh, your game sucks. It's not accessible. Thank you for ignoring blind people, and just really kind of angry, hateful content that I see on social media quite a bit. Now, eventually, I have never done it. I have never really had hateful comments, but even I've been a little bit sarcastic sometimes about you know, Valve or Nintendo. These are companies, or even Oculus or Meta now. It's like, well, these companies, they have been around forever. They're huge companies. They've got gazillions of dollars. You know that they could do something with accessibility if they want to. Nintendo could add some text to speech in there. They should have added text to speech in their Switch. If they don't do it for their next console, whatever it's going to be, then we're going to have a problem. Because Microsoft does it, Sony does it. Sony has added it to their PSVR now through the PlayStation, the way they're using that. Is it perfect? No, but at least they're trying. Oculus, if their next headset doesn't have some sort of dashboard accessibility, I'm going to be upset a bit about that. Because again, there's been a lot of stuff in the lab, but nothing that's really hit, for consumers to buy. But this Project Black Cat session, it gives a lot of perspective from the developer side about what it takes to just even get something simple to work. People are like, oh, it can't be that hard to add menu narration. Just add some things and make it speak aloud. Or, it can't be that hard to add a audio sound here or feature there. The lady that was working with Sightless Combat, they were developing this, it's not out yet, but they're going to have this prototype out later this year. And they were trying to build this blind accessible stealth game prototype. And it was really interesting because she was talking about all the trouble that she had. She was trying to work with Unreal Engine 4, I think. And she was literally just trying to make a simple button or a basic menu option and have it speak. She would fight with it on her own, couldn't get it to work. She would contact Epic support or Unreal support. They couldn't help her. It wasn't working. She tried Unreal 5, couldn't get it to work. Finally, she had looked into this other thing called ReadSpeaker. I follow them on Twitter, and they're another kind of text-to-speech type of software that I don't really know how to explain it, but I've heard of them. And she eventually implemented that, and hey, it worked. And it was funny because when she was looking at the Unreal stuff, they were looking at the documentation. It's like, oh, and put this code in there, do this, and it should work. Well, it didn't. And she contacted their support, and they're like, oh, yeah, it's supposed to work, but no, it does not work. So, yeah, about that. So that was an issue. I mean, but so something that simple, you think, oh, it can't be that hard to add this type of accessibility. I'm not a programmer, but I've taken enough programming classes that, like I said, even me trying to create something simple, I can probably make a hello world script in some programming language if I tried. But beyond that, I'm like, I'm not good at it. I'm bad at programming. and even just thinking through like how to design a feature, even if you're not coding it, you still have to be like, when I talked about, game accessibility, I talked about, the training and stuff, but when I do another video on how I got into game accessibility and what I'd recommend for people on the growing up illegally cited thing soon, you have to be very clear, but you also have to be very analytical about, okay, how would I do that so that A, it would make sense to me, but so that it would make sense to pretty much everybody. I can think of a feature that would work well for me as a blind or low vision user, but I'm a nerd, you know. I've been using technology and screen readers and playing video games forever. What about somebody who is young, or just they've never had a chance to play a video game before, or they've never used a screen reader before yet? You have to kind of account for their onboarding, how they're going to learn it. So there's a lot that goes into um, even a simple accessibility feature, or even just a simple feature in general, and have nothing to do with accessibility. So I thought that Project Black Cat thing was actually pretty interesting. And I said, if people who are interested, if people are watching this channel, I would recommend watching that video because, like I said, I see so many people on social media, on, AppleVis or the audiogames.net or whatever. Some of the little things can be tricky. Some of them can be really hard. And especially if you're working, like if you're not building everything from scratch and you don't have control over everything yourself, if you're working with a game engine, Unreal, Unity, you got to work within their restrictions. I mean, there's even things in like the Toby Accessibility Mod where it's like, well, we're working with a 30-year-old engine here. The Doom engine is like 30 years old at this point. So there's just things that like, yeah, even GZ Doom, it's a source port, it's more updated, but like it's still old. And there's just certain things that it just will not do, without a major, major, major hassle. And even then, would it even work? So you have to work within the limitations of, it could be your platform, it could be your engine, it could be anything like that. So definitely check that one out. And getting back to Tara's session, that one was also really interesting because it really took a look at things from the developer side or the business side of accessibility, because as more companies are starting to do stuff, they're starting to do more with accessibility, they're trying to implement accessibility. And just like any other feature that they have to or that they want to prioritize in a game, story, graphics, sound, AI, whatever, online play, whatever. A certain amount of resources have to be devoted to accessibility. And you're going to get these higher up management types that are just looking at everything from the bottom line, like it's a financial thing. Well, we're serving these players, but they're a small audience. Or, well, how many people actually use these features, or blah, blah, blah. Or, comparing one game's accessibility to another game's when it's really not fair. I love the one example that she was talking about where she was saying, you can't just look at, oh, this game has 20 accessibility features, this one has 50, so therefore this one is obviously better. To some players, sure, absolutely. But maybe to other players it isn't. Maybe the one with 20 accessibility features, for the game mechanics that it does, maybe it's perfectly good and for a lot more people. And then she talked about an example of, okay, so which would you say is more accessible? You've got two games, and one game is really well done with subtitles, and it's very deaf accessible. you've got captions, you've got subtitles, you've got visual indicators, and it's just like, man, if you are deaf or hard of hearing, almost everyone should be able to play this game. Yet that game has no blind accessibility at all. So you're leaving out a whole group. But then you have another game that they want to be as inclusive as they can, and they realize whether it's time restraints or something in their engine or their current game that they're making, they couldn't get as much as they wanted for each area, but they have some level of blind accessibility, maybe, and they have some level of deaf accessibility features. So maybe, like for instance, maybe it's got subtitles and stuff, but maybe it doesn't have like indicators for sound effects or something, or they don't have like background color or text color options. But technically subtitles and stuff are there. But then this game also has some blind accessibility. So it's got menu narration. Maybe there's some navigation stuff. It's not perfect. It glitches out sometimes, or it can be a little confusing, but it works, and it generally a blind player could play. So neither one of those are perfect, blind or deaf accessibility in the second game. But which one would you say is more accessible? Would you say that the first game is? That it totally excludes one audience but is really good for another? Or would you say that the second game is, even though neither is perfect, but potentially you would have a bigger audience of two different groups that could play your game? So it's not that simple. It was just a really interesting session, and I believe that one is called Not Like This. That's what the title of that one is called. I would definitely recommend looking up that one too, because that one was a great way to end the conference, I think. The other trend, there wasn't necessarily a session specifically on it, but a lot of sessions cover this, and I do kind of want to mention this too, because even on social media recently, I've kind of seen this becoming a little bit more of a trend, and I like where they're going with it here. Because up to this point, we've really been thinking about accessibility as, okay, here's this game that is designed for non-disabled players. No one's got a physical impairment or a learning impairment or anything like that. People can just play it. So in order to make that game accessible, we need to add accessibility features. We need to add captions. We need to add text-to-speech. We need to add navigation assists, high contrast modes, button remapping. And all of these things are features. They can help people with disabilities, but they can also help people with no disabilities who just want to be able to customize their game. Excuse me a sec. But one of the focuses was that we have to start looking at accessibility, not, again, you're looking at, oh, well, this game has 50 features. It's got to be the best accessible game ever. Rather than looking at it through, we got to have X number of features, or these specific features in order to make a game accessible, look at accessibility as just another core design, a core part of the design of your game. So if you are designing your game well, and you're thinking about, what unintentional barriers are we creating so far with our game? You have to have barriers in a game because that's the whole point. So you have to overcome some sort of challenge. That's the point of a game. But you don't want to have unintentional barriers or challenges, like I could play the game if only I could see it well enough, or I can't navigate the menus because I can't see them or whatever. Um, but if somebody, and I'm going to use blindness again because that's what I'm familiar with. That's what a lot of us are more familiar with. But like, let's say that you had a game that just by the nature of its audio was so well designed that if you had headphones on and just by the native sounds in the game, like it had really good like 3D audio or binaural audio, and you could kind of navigate the world just by hearing the environmental sounds, the where dialogue was coming from, your footsteps. Oh, if you're walking on different surfaces, you're walking and then oh, boom, you don't hear any sounds anymore. Like oh, I stopped walking there, therefore I'm probably running into a wall. Um, if your game is designed to be better playable, there's not as many accessibility features that you have to add on to it. Even from the beginning, it's like, I don't have to have as many boops and bleeps in order to navigate if just the overall navigation experience, be it controls and audio, were good enough that I could get around the game as I needed to. I might need a little bit of navigation assist or something, but I may not need as many extra like blindy specific things because the game is developed in a certain way. I mean, hopefully that makes sense, but it's just an interesting interesting perspective that I think we're starting to shift toward. Of course, no matter what, we're always going to need some specific accessibility features. Like if you are a fully sighted user, you're not really going to need audio cues to know that oh, there's a cliff in front of you, or that there's an object that you can interact with, there's a door in front of you. Like a sighted person can just see that. So a blind person is going to need to know, hey, there's an interactable object, or there's a ledge they can fall off and die here. So those are things that, yeah, we're going to have, or, menu narration. A sighted person isn't going to necessarily need that. So yes, we are going to have some disability-specific features. But if we include more overall accessibility into our gameplay design, some of that should be a little bit easier. So that is a little bit about the Game Accessibility Conference. It was actually, like I said, pretty interesting. A lot of good sessions. Those were some of my highlights specifically. I mean, there was more. There was a really good tribute session to a disabled gamer that unfortunately passed away, a year or two ago. But he did a lot of work toward game accessibility. It was a really nice session. Like I said, there was just a lot of stuff there. Check out the Game Accessibility or GAConf YouTube channel because all the sessions are there. The final thing that I want to talk about, and this will be quick because it's going to have its own video hopefully very soon. I forgot to mention it when I was talking about games, but you know what? This is a nice finale to wrap up on anyway. I've done a lot of talking about the Toby Accessibility Mod. I even just mentioned it a little earlier. And that's what made me think of it, that I forgot about it. I've done several videos on the Toby Accessibility Mod, and even version 5.1, things were looking pretty good. Version 6 should be just around the corner. I got a preview build from Mr. Alan D1. I've played it, I've tested it some, I've given a little bit of feedback. He fixed a couple tweaked a couple things that I noticed, and he's working on a couple more, but hopefully in the next few days or beginning of May, hopefully we will have version 6.0 of the Toby Accessibility Mod for Doom 2. And this is the one that you guys are going to want to grab. This is the one that I think you guys really should give an honest try to, because even since 5.1, there's little tweaks and little things that have just come a really long way. I already have a video recorded. I'm just waiting for the actual game to come out so I can put the links to the downloads in the description and get the okay from Mr. Alan D1 to get it out there for you. But yeah, so the Toby version 6 is going to be out here pretty soon, and it's really good. Couple things, he's changed the wall bump sound, so instead of that clunk, clunk, clunk constantly, it's more just this little it's a lot quieter, it's a lot more subtle, you still hear it, but it kind of reminds me of even if you're playing sighted and you're doing the whole kind of wall humping thing to look for secrets, you'd kind of hear this little rubbing or buzzing sound like when you're going near a wall in Wolfenstein. That's kind of where he got the inspiration from, actually, and so he's changed that. That's better. There are more unique sounds, like so when you pick up specific ammo types or specific weapons, you hear, you know exactly what is lying on the ground. You can now tell the difference between a switch and a door, because before you had the same sound effect for when you were when you heard a door or a switch nearby. You can now tell those are different sounds now. You have markers that you can lay down, up to 10 in a level, and you can add and remove them. So again, these levels are labyrinthian, and even visually they're meant to be that way. But if you get to a room that's got like 3-4 different exit or doors and exits in that room, that's a hub that you always want to kind of find your way back to. Set a marker. You find a place that you want to, maybe you found a certain door, or certain something or other that you want to, maybe you found a health stash that you don't need now, but you might need a little later. Set a marker there so you can find it. You've got the compass. You've got, it seems this version 6.0 is a lot more polished. It feels more like a, like if you were going to package this up and, make it an official product, it feels pretty darn close to what it should be now. The other thing that he's made it a lot easier to actually set up the game. Everything is now in one pack except for the official, you still need to get the Doom game, the Doom 2 game, because you need the doom2.wad file. But everything like the map packs, the mod itself, GZ Doom, all of that is in one file now. And I go through it in the video, but like you unzip it, you have to paste the folder into the root of your C drive, because he's made it easier where you just launch one file and it'll load. When you go into the game, you now have 2 episodes. Like if I wanted to play the Deluxe Map Pack 1 or Toby Deluxe 1 or Toby Deluxe 2, I don't have to exit the game and choose each episode individually anymore. I can just hit escape, go to the main menu, new game, select an episode, and you're on your way. It just feels like I said, it just feels a lot better. It's a lot easier to get into. He's got an updated audio manual for it. So look forward to that video whenever I get the word that it is out there. I'm hoping it's going to be pretty soon. I've given him a sneak peek of the video. He loves it. So a huge shout out to Mr. Alan D1 again for even just like creating and updating and doing so much work on this mod. This is the version, if you haven't tried it already, this is the one that I would recommend that you start with. This is where I would recommend that you start trying the Toby Accessibility Mod, because it's a lot easier to get into. There's better documentation. There's an audio manual. It's easier to set up. The audio cues are better. You've got a compass. You've got markers. It's just really getting good. So on that positive note, that is where we are going to wrap up. It has been a long video, but there's been a lot to talk about. A couple iffy things, but there's been a lot of fun, a lot of great news as well. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you did. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, twitch.tv/illegally-cited, illegally-cited.com, and right here on YouTube. Until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.